Good morning. We're actually on the second Sunday of Easter, which means that we've celebrated the wonder that Jesus is alive again. And now we start moving through the stories of what that was like for the disciples and how they sort of figured out how to live in this new thing that God gives us. Our story from today actually comes just after Easter, and we're told that all of the disciples have gathered together in an upper room. And they're all there, and they've got the doors locked because they're not really sure how the crowds would treat them, and they're still kind of scared, and they're not sure how they should be living in Easter. And Jesus appears among them, and he says something. Do you know what he says? He says, peace be with you. Just like we did to start off these video sessions for Children's Time. And all the disciples got really excited, and Jesus showed them how he'd been wounded on the cross, but he was alive again, and they were all so excited, and Jesus blessed them. But there was one of the disciples who wasn't there, and his name was Thomas. We don't know where Thomas was, but he wasn't with the other disciples. And when the other disciples saw him, they said, Thomas, Thomas, we've seen the risen Lord. And Thomas says, nope, I don't believe it. Because until I actually put my hands where the nails went and in the side where Jesus was hurt, I'm not going to believe that he's alive. And the story continues that on the next Sunday, they were all together in that upper room with the doors locked. And Jesus stood among them, and he said, that's right, peace be with you. And then he said to Thomas, come on, if you need to touch my wounds, do so, but you need to believe that I'm alive. And the story says that Thomas fell to his knees, and he said, my Lord and my God. And all the disciples celebrated that Jesus was alive, and they figured out how to live as disciples after Easter. Now, one of the questions that people usually ask is, well, why didn't Thomas believe? Why did he doubt? And to be honest with you, it's because it was a pretty incredible story that the other disciples told him. Even if they'd heard that maybe Jesus was alive, it's a little different to be led to accept it. So I brought something to help show how hard it is sometimes to believe. This is just a regular bag of water. And I know this isn't as impressive as if we were all in church together, because you think that Chad's going to do some magic with the video, but he's not. Normal pencil, normal bag of water. And what would you think would happen if I punctured this? Well, yeah, you'd expect that the water would flow out. But you know what actually happens? I can put this in, and it goes all the way through, and there's no water dripping. And you might think, oh, well, that's just a freak thing that happened. But the truth is, I can do this again. And yeah, I'm getting an occasional drip. And I can do it one more time. And you can see both sides, and there's no water dripping at all. And the fact of the matter is, that's pretty incredible. But you know what I expect? I expect by the time I got to the third pencil, you were going, yeah, that's neat, but I've seen that happen. I know it can happen. Because the truth of the matter is that you've seen this. And that's the same thing. I'm going to just put that back here. That's the same thing with Thomas and the disciples. After they saw the risen Jesus, they could start living in that way that Jesus wanted them to. And after Thomas saw and believed, he could start living as a disciple after Easter. Now, for all of us, we need to start living as disciples after Easter, which means we need to be doing all of those things we talked about through Lent, being patient, being kind, praying for one another, reminding each other how to live and how to keep each other safe, and being thankful for all of the things that God has done for us. So let's try to do all of those things, and let's remember to tell each other about the good news of Jesus being alive and God inviting us to walk as God's people this day and every day. As always, there are some crafts and some activities just below the link where you're watching this video, and I hope that you all have a good week. But before we go, why don't we pause and pray as Jesus taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I hope you have a good week, you stay well, and God bless.